Hey everybody, it's Jane Johnston with the Bar Hill Group at Remax Camosun. We are here on Monday, November 14th with Andrew Plank for the Victoria
Hey
Real Estate Show.
everybody, it's Andrew Plank with Royal LePage. Good to see you. Hi, Jane.
Hi, sorry for talking over you.
All
How was
good.
your week?
It was a good week. Yes, as usual, always a good week. What weeks aren't good?
Did you have a productive week?
I got out showing a lot of properties. I've got a couple people looking to pull trigger on a couple of properties. I'm still waiting on one of my listings to hopefully sell. We're contingent on another property selling, not in our control. So we'll be very happy for my clients when that comes about. And just my main thing lately has been trying to come up with what's my next steps in terms of CRM. And you and I had a short conversation about that, but it's been actually weighing on me a lot.
A CRM is a client relationship manager. It's basically
Database of
database.
it's a database of your clients and contacts, but it's also, helps you to sort of reminders to stay in touch with people at certain times. Obviously, you can just do that with a Rolodex if you're old-fashioned, Excel spreadsheet, your Google contacts. But the tech has really moved along these days, and starting to feel like maybe it's time to shift things up.
Yeah. So where I am with a lot of my clients and how our topic came up today was I am looking at what our inventory is going to be for next year. So we're already starting to chalk up our listings for the beginning of the year. So one of the tools that sellers can use, and we'll talk to a home inspector, his name is Kenny Can, and he's going to be discussing how we can do pre-inspections on properties, and the sellers can deal with the deficiencies and he can come back. But anyway, we'll get to that. Want to do the stats?
Let's do the stats, then we'll bring Kenny in and talk.
Okay.
Yes.
Alrighty. Go ahead.
So we're on the right-hand column here, November 14th. So 162 new listings so far in this week, in the last 7 days, that is. 78 properties went pending, so that's less than half. And 110 properties decreased in price, so quite a high number of price decreases as well. One price increase, 2 back on market, 72 sold. 30 properties expired unsold as well. So again, these numbers are not low. The new listings has been a little low, I'd say, and the sales have been low. Okay, they're all low.
Well, relatively speaking, though, so we were at about 50% last week, and we are about 50% this week. And it's sort of like in terms of new listings to pending. So that says to me that the market is fairly steady, but we are decreasing in the number of listings, and that's just seasonal as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We will expect less and less. And as Jane was alluding to, we're looking at prepping and gearing up for spring. And people who are considering selling a home at this point are saying, you know what, the days are short. The property, it's wet and muddy outside. It's just not a good. I'd rather sell when it's a nicer time of year, and people are more likely to be buying.
Okay. So in terms of where we are in the month of November this year compared to November last year, we have 156 listings that have sold. That's up from 83 last week, and that's down from 653. And we've got the BC stats today, so we'll look at that holistically as a province.
Yeah, and again, something to keep in mind with this stat here is the right-hand column is for the full month of November.
Right.
So that's why those numbers don't change on the right-hand column between those two sets of stats. But we had 83 in the first week of unconditional sales, and we've just about been on par with that. It's just a little bit less than double with the 156 for the net unconditional sales.
So, which says to me, we might catch up to last year.
Yeah. Well, and look at active listings again, over double what we had last year, but still low for what would traditionally be a standard normal quote. What's normal, but a standard market.
Yeah, so I went to an open house on the weekend with a client of mine, and it was fairly steady. We happened to be chatting about a listing. We noticed an open house, so we just both popped by and met there at the same time. And he was saying, the listing agent, it's nice just to have choice again.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember who the agent was. Oh, Susan McGugan from Nanaimo. She's like, you know what? The market is cool and crisp right now. And that's so true.
Yeah. Well, it is refreshing in one sense. And, it's so good as someone who works, I work with both buyers and sellers, and working with buyers is such a relief to be able to feel like we can actually protect their interests instead of having them just sort of, jumping off cliffs to try to buy property, following the other, I'm not calling people, we weren't all lemmings in the last couple of years, but people were definitely, in order to win a property, had to take a lot of risk. And that's one of the reasons why we have a building inspector in here with us today to talk about, the fact that this is an option. Yet again, it's always been an option, but it wasn't a competitive option when the market was so busy that the seller wasn't going to consider your offer if it contained a building inspection clause potentially.
Over the past 2 years. Okay, so today in our mailboxes, for those who subscribe, the BC Real Estate Association sent out a report about how we're doing. And on the right is the chart. And it does show that the sales have gone down and the listings have gone up. Mm-hmm. However, we're also looking at record numbers over the past 2 years. So this is from 2015 to now. And although we're lower in terms of the number of sales, we're still doing pretty well.
Absolutely.
So the volume was down 26.3% in BC as a whole, and residential unit sales were down. So that's just houses, 33%. While the average price was up 10%. And this is as a whole across the province, but in Victoria, the average price year over year was down 4.3%. And when I looked at all the stats for all of the cities, they were saying the volume is down about 33%. Like,
could you go back one? I just want to talk about the graph there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you look at this graph, the blue line there, you can see just into early 2020, that's when COVID hit, and the market just kind of really, really dropped really quickly and then bounced back just as quickly. But that was the low in terms of sales. And we're not quite at that low, but we have gone to a low, I'd say lower than we've seen since 2015 in terms of actual unit sales. But you can see the curve is starting to even out. But when you look at actual inventory and active listings, we're still nowhere near where we were in 2015 for active listings, nor even in 2019. We are, so it looks to me like these two curves are kind of, they've split, and they're sort of, looks like they're moving back towards perhaps even, and then we'll see what happens in the future. But there's nothing dire here, and I know a lot of buyers keep saying I'm waiting for the sky to fall, or I'm waiting for prices to be so much lower than they're, because I think that they should be. But I don't believe that this indicates that that's going to be the case.
Okay, I'm just going to look at just quickly at the chart a different way, and that is when the blue line is higher than the yellow line, we're in a seller market. When the yellow line is higher than the blue line, we're in a buyer market. Mm-hmm. So that's really looking at the ratio here. And we've moved from a seller market into a buyer market, but the ratio is still pretty good. Mm-hmm. We're doing better than we were in 2019 still.
Yes. Yep.
And that was a slow year. Okay. So we're going to bring in Kenny now. Kenny Can is a residential home inspector. I guess he also does commercial building inspections. And
it's written there, so it must be true.
I wanted to chat with him today because he did a pre-home inspection for one of my sellers, and he did a great job of sort of bringing to light some of the issues, because we knew that there were issues and we wanted people to be aware before they even wrote the offer. So welcome, Kenny.
Hello.
How's it going?
Kenny.
Good. How are you guys doing today?
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent.
What
That's
did
good.
you do before you were a home inspector?
So I was in commercial property management. Got about a decade of that under my belt, and we actually the company I worked with, we specialized in heritage properties. So the youngest building we had was 105 years old, and I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, when you have a portfolio of about I think we've hit about 10 at the highest buildings that are all over 100 years old, you run into a lot of issues, and so that's where my experience came from. That kind of steered me towards home inspection.
Okay.
Sort of a natural transition for you if you're always, in there trying to problem solve.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as with that line of work, I mean, you're playing detective. You're trying to sleuth out these issues, so you get very good at identifying where the problems are going to be and what they are. And essentially, a home inspection is not much different.
So I'm looking here, you do a variety of different types of inspections, but I'm assuming that the methodology is the same for all of them.
Yeah, you bet. So we have a set structure in how we go about our inspections. We have, our categories that we've broken a home down into, and we tend to just run through it, step by step by step, and cover all the bases. There is a bit of deviation when it comes to commercial inspections, and it is listed that I do commercial inspections. However, I'm not doing large scale commercial just yet. I need to grow my team a bit before I can take on those large properties.
Okay, so what is the process for a home inspection, just so people are aware?
Sure. So first of all, we'll be in contact with both the selling agent and the buyer's agent and the client, and we will make sure we've got all our ducks in a row as for what day we're going to be there, and we have all of our statistics about details about the property, so the age, the size, if there's any outbuildings, that kind of stuff. We'll arrange for a time. Once that time has been set up, we'll get to site usually a little early. Try to be there. I personally try to be there at least 15 minutes early. Get a feel for what we're going to be looking at, and get kind of I guess you could say, a macro view of the property from a distance, before we get started on the inside or get started close up. We'll usually start with lots and grounds and the exterior of the building. From there, we'll do the roof. If there's a crawl space, we'll get into that. If there's any outbuildings, we usually cover them right at the start, and then we kind of work our way inside and tackle the attic and the kitchen, all the living spaces, the bathrooms. We're going to check your electrical panel. We're going to check all of your plumbing that is accessible, and we're going to get as good a look at the foundation as we can. We use thermal imaging as well for all of our inspections, which is super handy for those times when you can't access everything. I'm sure you guys have seen a lot of finished basements, a lot of finished crawl spaces, or perhaps an attic that you can't get into. It's very common. We'll show up on a property and, the seller just hasn't cleaned out the attics or the access, which is in a closet in a bedroom, and we can't get up in there. Well, at least with the thermal imaging, I can get an idea of what's going on insulation-wise in the attic.
Right.
And it's also good up on the roof for spotting, where moisture is being held underneath the roof covering. Especially with flat roofs that you might not catch on a warm day. If it's a warm summer day and it's fairly dry, well, the top is going to look dry, but there may be moisture underneath, and that's where things like the thermal imager and the moisture meter come in handy.
So we were discussing about having pre-inspections done, and that's where you help one of my clients out. So, I mean, we were listing a property. We knew that there were going to be issues with it, and we wanted the buyers to be aware. So right now is a good time for sellers to understand, I guess, get a pre-inspection done, I think, and then see what deficiencies they have. What's the process for that?
So for a pre-listing inspection, the process is no different than a residential inspection. Everything that I just discussed in our processes, we'll do the exact same thing for a pre-listing. But obviously, there's advantages to that, especially in a market like the one we're in right now. Like I think you guys said, there's on your stats, there's over 2,000 listings on the market right now, as opposed to roughly 900 last year. Well, it's a lot more competition for your home when buyers are out there looking at houses. I mean, unless you're one of those properties that is just that very unique, great view, highly desirable neighborhood, you might just be in a list with 4 or 5 other properties. And a pre-listing inspection is a great way to set yourself apart. On the seller's side, I mean, you're going to have your listing's going to stand out. you're positioning yourself in a space where you're telling the buyers, we're ready to sell. Here's all our cards laid out on the table. Here's everything that's going on with the house. Now that's one way to look at it. Another is, as the seller, it gives you a chance to get in front of some of those deficiencies. So a lot of times a house, regardless if it's 25 days or 25 years old, the house has problems. There's going to be something listed as a deficiency. But a lot of the times they're not major. Major deficiencies do come up, but not as often as just the small ones. Right. And as a seller, you can get in front of those small ones. You can get in there and you can, make sure all of your junction boxes have cover plates on them. Make sure your switches are all have their covers. You can fix the smaller things that a lot of times are the ones that get brought up in negotiation for you guys. If it's a major issue, it's definitely going to get talked about. But when they're renegotiating price based on the deficiencies in the report, it's the small things that people haggle over.
Yeah,
and you can get. Sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely, I find that people when they come through a home, people have this rose-colored glasses. They see the home the first time, they fall in love with it, they make their offer, and then the inspector comes in and looks under the hood and starts to show where all the messy warts are. Mm-hmm. And if that happens, after the offer, then the buyer will definitely be put back on their heels and mm-hmm. may decide either to renegotiate or walk away. Now, if you even if you do a pre-inspection and don't do the work that the pre-inspection brings up, at least the buyer then will go into this negotiations with full knowledge of what's there. And I find that the negotiations are more realistic. There's nothing worse than making negotiations when you see a house that it looks like it needs a new roof. It looks like it's been left with a lot of care required. And buyers will assume the worst and offer based on that, as opposed mm-hmm. to having real information in front of them.
Yeah, and when you put that information in front of them, you're adding built-in trust into that transaction on the seller side. Buying a home is a very emotional process. I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys that, and rightfully so. A lot of people, it's the biggest transaction they're ever going to make in their life. Maybe they're only going to do it once, twice, maybe 3 times at the most. And it's hard for that not to be an emotional transaction, especially here with the price of houses where they're at, right? So if you can help alleviate some of that stress by putting that pre-inspection in place ahead of time, it's only going to benefit you as a seller, in my opinion.
Are you finding that buyers are asking you to do the walkthrough with them, or are they asking for separate inspections?
I'd say we're probably about 75-25 on people taking the walkthrough. And so, that is part of our ABCHI, which is, our acronym for a buyer's choice. We call ourselves ABCHI. A little shorter than saying a buyer's choice home inspections every time. So, but that's part of our ABCHI pre-inspection, our pre-list inspection, is that ours are unique in the sense that ours are actually transferable to the buyer. And that's not just the report that's transferable. It's our E&O insurance and our full warranty package that we offer with every inspection. And so with that comes that walkthrough with the client afterwards. So if they decide to take the transfer of ownership, obviously there is a slight cost to the buyer, but it's less than what they're going to pay for a regular home inspection. But we transfer full liability from the seller to the buyer. So if anything's wrong with it, my insurance will cover it, and our warranty package will cover it. And that's where that walkthrough comes in.
That's a good distinction, because quite often there's that's one of the drawbacks or arguments against, I guess, the pre-inspection from the buyer's perspective is, it's not done for them, mm-hmm. even though it should be, fairly objective or completely objective. It's still done for the seller, and so the seller is the client. So if you're able to actually consult with and give information to a buyer directly, that's a really good benefit for someone who's looking at using that inspection report and relying on it.
Do 100%. Buyers pay for that?
The buyers do. So the liability follows fiduciary responsibility. So it follows the money, essentially. So there has to be a transaction in order for that insurance to transfer over to the buyer. But Andrew, you're 100% right in that if you can get it out there, it does show. We're unbiased in our opinion on the house. I come into the house. I'm not there. Obviously, I'm hired by someone in whether it be the buyer or the seller. I'm hired by that party originally, but my responsibility is the house itself. Yeah, I'm not there to pump anybody's tires or say good or bad about the house. The house is what the house is. I can't change the state of it, and my it's part of our code of ethics and our standards of practice that we represent that honestly and fairly.
And do you find like when you're doing the walkthrough, is the buyer's realtor with the buyer at that time that they're doing it? Because I find it's helpful to have the buyer's realtor as a buyer realtor. I like to be present for the walkthrough because then I can ask questions.
Yeah,
Yeah, 100%, 100%. The more the merrier with the walkthrough, and that is whether I'm doing a standard inspection on the buyer side or a pre-listing. I want the client there. I want the realtor there. I want us to all have a discussion so we're all on the same page about what I'm saying about the property and how I'm presenting it. And on that note, I know it's not always possible to have a walkthrough done with a property. Sometimes your buyers are remote, but with a buyer's choice, we stress it because that is what you're hiring us for, is to put context to that report and to that home given its age. You want somebody, I can put the same report in front of 10 people and they're going to interpret it differently.
Absolutely, 200%. I see that all the time. And the reports, if you ever read a report, just read the report black and white, and you don't have the inspector there to give context. The report often has a lot of both boilerplate stuff, like keep the drapes away from the heating element, from the heaters, and
cut your vegetation
away from, pull the dirt back from your perimeter foundation. But these things, a buyer will read this and assume, okay, there's all of this stuff wrong with this house. Without the context, it really can be damaging.
Also, you need to know that there's going to be certain things that happen to houses at certain ages, and what's normal and what's abnormal.
And that's why I say context relevant to the age of the home. What I'm gonna point out on a house that was built in 1905 is going to have a completely different explanation behind the same deficiency on one built in 1995, right? So
exactly, the systems in a 1905 house were built and could be really well working really well for those systems from 1905. Of course, technology has moved along. Yeah,
but again, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say again, it's all in context to the age of the home. I mean it's what is good for that. What is good for a 1905 is not necessarily good for a 1995, but it doesn't mean that it's needs to be changed or updated. It has to be put into context of when the home was built.
Yeah. Now I feel like we need to be clear that, like, I believe in pre-inspections. I believe that they really serve a benefit and it's really important. But I think that we do need to make it clear that for some sellers, there are chances that something is discovered that could make the home unsaleable or very expensive to repair. And so that could change their plans. And that could be that it was really good that they found that out because it means that they may not have to go through all the heartache of trying to list their home only to find these problems. There's always also the chance that once you're aware of a problem, you have to disclose it.
Yep.
If it's a hidden defect that could be costly to repair, and that could put an extra responsibility on the seller. Whereas if they just listed a home as is, whereas buyers do their own due diligence, come and bring multiple offers, and they write an offer sight unseen with no conditions.
I don't recommend that.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is this is something a seller needs to know, because sellers need to be informed about their choices. And I would hate to put a seller in a position where they come to me and say, Andrew, you didn't.
The way I usually address that objection to a pre-listing inspection is, you're right. There is that off chance I'm going to uncover something like, a buried oil tank, which is very common out here that you didn't know about. But in today's market, where home inspections are becoming more and more consistent on offers, if I don't find it, somebody else is going to. It's any inspector worth their salt and that is good at the job is going to find those same deficiencies that you don't potentially want to find, and it's in your best interest to be in front of those, not behind them.
Yeah. And a great example is I had a client. We looked at two houses, and they were side by side, of varying degrees of upkeep, but they were built at the same time. So one was well maintained, the other one wasn't. The well maintained one had an offer on it. We went into the unwell maintained home, and we saw the property disclosure statement on the fridge. This was like before technology and sharing and everything. And it turns out that they had an offer and that they had discovered knob and tube wiring. And so the offer fell apart. So we look at the property disclosure that's sitting on the fridge and we see there's knob and tube in the house. So the buyer makes an offer fully aware of that there's knob and tube. So there's no wishy-washy, oh my God, I can't deal with it. She went in knowing that she could deal with it. So I highly recommend, like, I've had sellers say to me, I don't want to disclose this major renovation in a duplex. I'm like, well, there's the other half of the duplex. You're going to know.
Yeah.
Not disclosing doesn't make the issue or the deficiency go
No way.
away.
It makes it worse.
No.
So,
but it is, and it's not like I'm saying that I do recommend pre-inspections. I think that they're the way to go, but I think that sellers need to understand that there could be a big cost that comes up. We, the realtor, will get blamed if we bring in a building inspector only to find that the house is no longer saleable or something like that, or would require a lot of money. So we need
I think we should know that.
Some of the risks.
It's definitely a valid point, but I will say that in my experience, though those kind of properties are few and far between.
Yeah.
They're not. It's not most. Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah. Most properties, most things most problems can be solved.
Mm-hmm. Well, the way I like to look at it, every problem in a house can be fixed. It's just a matter of, do you want to put the time and effort into it, and capital into it? And for some people, they do. If you're looking at this property and it is, your dream property, it's in the right neighborhood. Maybe mom and dad live down the road and the best schools that you want your kids to go to are down the other road. Mm-hmm. Well, you might be more willing to put that extra capital into that property, but it's good for you to know that you may need to, right, before getting into it. So yeah.
Not only that, there's a lot of people who will make offers. Sorry, guys, I feel like I'm jumping in a lot, but there's a lot of people who will make offers. Wouldn't make an offer. Let's say that's a competitive property. It's well priced, and they want to make an offer, but they definitely don't want to make an offer without a building inspection clause.
Yeah.
If there are a number of people interested in that property with a building inspection report in front of them, and they feel confident going forward with making an offer, you're going to have more people actually writing offers than if you don't have that in front of you and people saying, I just don't know what's in front of me, so I'm not going to make an offer on this property, or if I do, it's going to be subject to, this, that, and the other. So a pre-building inspection can actually end up with more money in the seller's pocket because it opens up more buyers who are going to be able to come in and look at that property.
100%.
Well, and also it may assuage their concerns, right? Like they may go, okay, well, I know, like for instance, those stilts. Oh, they were all done. The house is built on stilts or whatever. It was all done with permits, knowing that there's something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not going to be foolproof, but I always figure it's better to be well informed than not. Even as a seller, I don't recommend, there's one company that recommends that they don't fill out property disclosure statements. I think that puts everybody back a bit. Why isn't that filled out? Well, we were told we didn't want anybody to depend on this. Yes, but if it's industry standard, I think it should be done.
And just to touch on the deliverability that you're talking about there, Andrew. So what we do for our pre-list inspections, and Jane, I do apologize because we didn't have this in place when we did yours, but we've upgraded our system a bit here. We'll actually generate a QR code that links to the report that you can display on site. So when you have an open house or showing, the potential buyer can just take a shot of it on their phone, and they can have the report and walk through the home as they're looking at it. Another thing we're offering is a co-host open house. So I will actually come to the open house with you and be there as a technical consultant for the potential buyers as they come through and they're reading the report. I can answer some questions to add that context to the report.
Interesting.
Okay. Kenny, how do people reach you?
Well, they can reach me through my website, which is abuyerschoice.com/Saanich. That will soon be updated to abuyerschoice.com/Victoria. You can get me by my phone number, 778-678-9754. You can email me, and that's just that would be just kenny.can@abuyerschoice.com. You can also find me on social. I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm always answering my messages on those.
Okay.
I don't think I'm not gonna forget Abchi.
Abchi. Yeah, that's the way. Abchi.
Yeah.
Just remember Abchi.
Yeah.
Okay. And Andrew, how do people reach you?
Oh, sorry, Kenny, did you want to say something?
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that we our company also has full island coverage, so it's not just me down here in the south end of the island. I handle Victoria and all the surrounding communities, out to Souk and basically south of the Malahat, let's say, and then the Sandwich Peninsula. But we do have a team of guys in Nanaimo and another gentleman up in Courtney Comox. And if anybody needs our services up that way, feel free to contact me for their information as well.
Excellent, Kenny. Thank you.
Thank you.
If anybody would like to reach out, I'm at 250-360-6106, info@andrewplank.com by email, or check out the website, andrewplank.com, and Instagram, plankandrew.
All right. And if you want to reach me, I'm Jane Johnston with the Briar Hill Group. You can call me at 250-744-0775. My email is briarhillgroup@gmail.com. And you could look at one of my two websites. One is briarhillgroup.com or vancouverislandtime.com. And I'm also on Instagram as Realty Teacher Remax Victoria and Vancouver Island Luxury Living. Okay, so don't forget, we are here every Monday morning at 10 a.m. We would love to see you. If you have any questions or you want information covered, please give us a call. We'll see you next Monday. Bye.
Thanks so much, Kenny.
Thanks for having me, you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.
Bye.